big part of this podcast was me returning to the Disney movies that I grew up on from the 90s. One of the first things I appreciated about those movies was the role of music. I talked about this in episode 7. When I was 3 years old, I fell in love with the film Beauty and the Beast. At 3 years old, I didn't know that was the first movie to win the Oscar for Best Animated Film. I didn't know how well the movie was doing across the world. I didn't know that hundreds of millions of people were connecting with that art. But at 3 years old, I did. And that stayed with me. So well into my mid-20s, a light bulb has gone off and I'm like, why don't I listen to that music anymore? So I was like, imagine if we could tell stories about our lives in the fairy tale style, in a way that also led to more employment and more opportunity. So I started trying to tell those stories. Now, being in Abbey Road with how many musicians did you say are outside today? 45 musicians. That's just a fraction of a broader team that's pulling this all together. This is exactly what I was saying. I'm telling stories from my life and trying to make them fairy tale style like Disney allows 45 musicians to come in and do a good day's work, allows Benbrick and I to commit ourselves to a really meaningful project across the year, allows you to come in and film with us, using that Disney formula of telling magical fantasy kind of stories just led to so much growth in my career.
What do you think it means for other young people? You had this idea that you wanted to do it with an orchestra. Literally an idea in your head that is now coming to fruition. What does it mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our young people, I was just thinking that I want to bring my nephews.
Oh, you have to.
Our young people should be made aware how far their thoughts can travel. We all respond to music. So what can we do with that in an environment where, we're lucky to be in a country with such a rich history of recorded music. Abbey Road Studios is legendary. From the Beatles through to all of these decades of movies that have had their scores recorded here. So we're in this environment. How can we tap into these opportunities and push our stories and push our communities?
There's definitely some new moments. But yeah, we've been able to reimagine a few of the bits from last season with the orchestra now. It's like a new take on the old. We've been living with these pieces of music and the podcast for so long. We've been working on this chapter for so long, but we've only been listening to it in the studio, driving back to where we live, and in our houses. So now we're listening to it in like this whole new context. And it's crazy because we've been let out and we've got so many musicians, BBC Concert Orchestra. It's a dream. The thing with my music is about creating space for what George is saying. When I'm listening to them playing, I can hear where George's words are slotting in because we've listened to it in situation so many times. So for me, I'm like eager to get back to the studio and put it all back together and see how it works in real life. Like, this is part 1. We've worked with the concert orchestra almost 3 times. Our last show that we were going to do with a YouTube show got cancelled. We had
Because of COVID, not just because we're bad people.
Yeah, we did our bit. We showed up.
Benbrick's like about a lot of what they were about. Innovation. You know what I'm saying? Just do your thing and make your truth connect. This guy's a genius at that.
What do I say to that?
There are 10 episodes in this chapter. 10 great episodes and no episodes that are not great. BBC Sounds have been great. They let myself and Benbrick experiment and do what comes naturally to us. I want people to listen to this chapter with curiosity, with an open mind, ready to hear some stories that might make you think differently about the world.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.